Just great morning to everybody. This is 2 days past my birthday, my half century of life, and I'm going to be sharing some awesome takeaways that I've put together in a write-up and a rise-up.
Great morning, world! Welcome to the Rise Up with Dragon podcast with your host, Dragon!
Great morning, world. This is your boy, Dragon, coming back from another worldly experience. So I just spent 2 weeks in South Africa because we went out. My daughter that we're adopting was denied entry, so we went out there and spent some time with her, and it was an interesting experience. One of the things that I love in my practice as a Stoic and just all my studies of consciousness and everything like that, I love when I have opportunities to try all this stuff out. And those opportunities don't come on the days where everything's going well. They come on the days when the shit hits the fan. So I've learned, and this is something that I constantly speak about, I've learned to get excited about adversity and challenges because it's an opportunity to try some of this stuff out, see if it works, right? So while I was in South Africa, first of all, it's in the just the deepest part of the winter, so it's very cold there. And I know that sounds strange. I think when people think about South Africa, they think that, there's going to be like giraffes and buffaloes running around. But the truth is that right now it's freezing cold there. Like you literally have to wear a jacket even when you're like in houses and stuff. But at the same time, while I was there, the country whose government is just always on the verge of collapsing through the ex-president in jail. And he's kind of, I won't use any names, but he's kind of like somebody in this world that gets ousted every now and then. So anyway, he got put in jail, like real jail. And what they did is to counteract that, to try to free him, what they did is they told all the people in the townships, and the townships are people that have like no water, no electricity, which is pretty much the majority of the country, told them to rise up and loot and steal and set fires, and that's exactly what they did. So while I was there in the heat of winter with 50% unemployment going on and coronavirus and the Delta variant at an all-time high, the whole country just went absolutely nuts. So naturally that was a scary thing because there's fires everywhere and there was no more food because the groceries all got, looted and everything like that. It was just nuts to watch that. And then also I was in an environment unlike mine where the news is a big deal. Everybody watches the news. As you know, Chicken and I are minimalists. We don't consume anything like that. So anyway, I was in that and I said, I got excited about it. I didn't get excited about all the people that were dying and all of the bad stuff, but I got excited about the opportunity that I had to choose how I responded to it. In the eyes of my daughter and in the eyes of, my wife and everything like that. So anyway, there was a little bit of a time where we didn't think we were going to get out of there, and we weren't able to bring my daughter back once again, but we just made a decision. We're going to go there every 2 months. So that's why it's a great morning. And I guess that's just a quick reminder before I start this up that it's always a great morning when we decide that it's a great morning. So great morning, world. Some people joining us on Clubhouse. We will have a interactive after party if anybody wants to hang out on this topic. And what I'm going to be talking about today is I'm going to be talking about my biggest takeaways from the past 50 years. And I know that sounds crazy, but when I sat down, I recognized, and maybe you can relate to this, that a lot of these things that I've learned over the years they're fresh on my mind right now because I'm writing books about it. I'm doing a lot of talks and things like that. So I just said, let me just make my journal entry today, which was really yesterday, about my biggest takeaways. And my intention behind this was to share them with you, so you'll be able to watch this as a recorded live or listen to the edited version on the podcast. But I want to share these things with you so you don't have to spend 50 years to learn them. Although there's value in that, and maybe you can make sense of some of these ideas and tools and things that I've learned along the way, and use them to accelerate your life during this impermanent experience that we're having right now, this unpredictable, impermanent experience. And maybe one day you can get excited about the shit hitting the fan. So you can try some of these things. So here we go. Here's my 50th birthday special Rise Up with Dragon. So the first thing I did was when I woke up that day, because I was in South Africa and I was kind of out of my structure and everything, but I was still doing my rise ups. So I was waking up every morning at about 5 and I was doing some writing. So on the day of my birthday, when I woke up, first of all, I was 6 hours ahead of Eastern time. I started to do a journal entry. But I realized first, from a place of gratitude, that I woke up for the 50th time around the world, per se, to greet this 50th year of life, and I decided to reflected and dedicated that journal entry to this question. And I think this is a question that anybody can ask themselves. And the question was, what is the one thing, what is your one biggest takeaway from the last 50 years that you could share with everyone, all of the chickens and dragons out there, that you can share with everybody, and attempt to pay forward a lesson that could help them accelerate. So this is the intention of it. Now, why would I want to help people accelerate? Well, selfishly, it makes me feel good, right? And that's something that I've learned. There's another takeaway. Help them accelerate with less resistance to their preferred location in life. I used to use the word desired location, but I think that location and goals is a preference. So what's the secret to fulfillment, growth, success, and everything people claim that they want, right? So that when I asked that question, I just booted up a whole bunch of shit in my head, and I said, wow, so many takeaways. So I decided to build towards it, and this is kind of something that I do in the 15 days of discipline. I don't jump on one idea. I work through all of the ideas and all of the takeaways to unveil at the end my ability to create that space, to use a rational part of my brain to come up with the one. And I figured it out. So first, I want to share some of the biggest takeaways that I recognize that led me to the one. So here they are. So all you need to know in life is what you want and what matters most, right? All you need to know is what you want and what matters most, and accept only things and people that support your progress towards it. That's a big takeaway. All you got to know is what you want, why, and accept only things that are in support of it. So how about this one? Embrace the suck. I've talked a lot about this. Embrace the suck. The sucky things in life are gifts from the universe. The sucky things in life are gifts from the universe that force out the version of you that's needed to handle the things that you'll need to overcome to get to where you want to go in the future. Embrace the suck. Here's another. Learn to pause. I talked a lot about cognitive distancing, separating yourself from giving value to things, and the power of the pause. Learn to pause in the face of the things that happen in life and create enough space. This is one of the biggest ones it's not the one, but learn to pause and create enough space between your reaction, your knee-jerk reaction, and the thing that happens, so that you can identify what actually happened, whether or not it actually matters. This is a Socratic method that you're going to use with yourself. If it actually matters, if it's any of your business at all, does it have anything to do with where you're going? And is it under your control or out of your control? That's a big one. That's a big part of the interface response system. So all negative feelings, here's another. All negative feelings that we feel are potentially just that, feelings. All negative feelings are potentially just that, feelings, and not necessarily reality. That was a big lesson that I had to learn, is that what I felt might just be a feeling and not identify it as reality. So these negative feelings like anger, this is a big one, feelings like anger, frustration, worry, anxiety, etc., are almost always, if not always, almost always connected to an attempt by the person feeling them, the feeler, of their attempt to control something that's out of their control. Think about that. The next time you feel anger, frustration, worry, anxiety, those things are usually connected to you trying to control uncontrollable things. And when you make that distinction, you can release from them and feel better. So things that happen don't cause you to spiral downward. Things that happen don't cause you to spiral downward, right? It's the judgment of those things that do. Big takeaway there. Saved my life. That one saved my life. Here's another. Only on a healthy body rests a healthy mind. Like most of you know that I started this personal growth journey started with personal growth, right? Which ironically was personal shrinkage. I lost 80 pounds about 14 years ago. And what I realized, and I heard this quote, and I have to give this credit to this guy I met named Kai Liekefert. He said his mom used to always say this to him about the importance of health. He says, only on a healthy body rests a healthy mind. Never heard that before. And what I learned, and this is what I'm offering you, the quickest way to activate your life, if you're stuck in life, if you're ever stuck and jammed up, the quickest way to unstuck and get yourself moving in a positive direction is to focus on getting healthy. It's something completely under your control. You can control what you drink, what you eat. You can control what you don't eat and don't drink. And you can control your movement, even if you have a small amount of ability getting healthy. All else that you want and need will organically follow. It will all build. It's like the tip of the spear. So it can't be done in reverse. You cannot fix your brain without fixing your body. On a healthy body rests a healthy mind. That's a big one. Here's another. The true value of getting physically, mentally, and financially healthy is in its creating a situation for you which has more resilience and equipping you with a more effective and efficient response system to better handle the uncontrollables of life. So here's what's important about that one. What that means is that all of these things that we do and we practice, if I go out and get physically, mentally, and financially healthy, what's the true value of it? And how will you determine that you've succeeded? How do you determine that you're successful? So what I learned, and this is my share, is that success comes on the day where the shit hits the fan and there's adversity and you handle it with grace. So that was a big one, because what that did is it gave me the ability to recognize something that we have to on the days that we don't believe in ourselves, and that is the juice is worth the squeeze, right? So the squeeze is the hard work that we put in. The juice is the day that you become unfuckwithable. So whatever you're working on right now, if you're working on things to make more money, how will it help you to make more money? Well, I would assume that if you ever have the shit hit the fan and you have a financial stress and you have more money, you'll be able to handle it with grace. You get the idea. Here's another. It's okay to want, this is a big one. It's okay to want things for yourself. And the word selfish is not a bad word. I always was taught that selfish was a bad word. It's not a bad word. In fact, you and I are similar in many ways, and here's one. None of us think, say, or do anything that has no value. None of us. Even if we serve God or we go to church or anything like that, it does something for you. So it's okay to get, right? And there's better situations than others, but you're allowed to become rich in life. And it doesn't have to just have to do with money. You're allowed to become rich and serve others at the same time, right? That was a big lesson for me, because I used to think that I wasn't supposed to want anything in return for service. But it feels good to serve people, right? And I became rich with the currency of goodwill. And then the money thing was another challenge. It's okay, as a matter of fact, there's books on this, but I believe this. God wants you to be rich. And what that means is that God wants you to serve others, and he's willing to pay you very, very well for it. Big, big lesson. Hope that one settles in. So here's another. Recognize the unpredictable impermanence of your time in this life. Recognize it. Just be open and recognize it. Because sometimes when we say things like, now's not a good time, that's identifying that you don't understand, that you don't know how much time you have, right? So procrastinating the things that you fear is the vacuum cleaner that will suck and steal your time. So think about that time, the unpredictable impermanence of it, and recognize that anytime we spend procrastinating and delaying, That's a vacuum cleaner that sucks that time dry. So take more risks, fail more, and learn to do uncomfortable things like I'm doing right now. This is still very uncomfortable to do a podcast, to go live, to show myself, and to potentially screw up all the time. I do this for one selfish reason. It's me practicing personal growth and discipline. I put myself in an uncomfortable situation. For those of you that know, my biggest fear is public speaking. So take more risks, fail more, and learn to do uncomfortable things. You'll unlock the secret door that leads to the room where all magical things happen. I remember I saw Hamilton, and there's a great song in Hamilton, and it says, "The room where it happens." It talks about, I want to be in the room where it happens. Well, you got to be in the room where the magical stuff happens. And the only way that you gain access to that room is by screwing things up more. Go out and screw up today more. And don't be afraid of it, because it's the way. So the most successful people that I've met fail more than you. That's a big one. So when I learned that, I decided to go out and fail more. So don't be afraid of what others think. This is a big one. We talked about this the other day on our Truth Bombs. So big shout out to the Obsessed Girls and Dr. Nima. We were talking about this. Don't be afraid of what others think. The truth is that others don't spend as much time observing you and your actions and caring about them as you think. If anybody ever gives you criticism towards what it is that you're doing, it doesn't have to do with them caring about you. It has to do with them trying to alleviate pressure and problems of their own. So don't be afraid about what others think, because people don't think about you as much as you think or hope. Okay? So you're pretty much invisible, as a matter of fact, and should feel free to be yourself. Be yourself. Hashtag let your crazy out. Let it out more often. Because you're crazy is the idea of letting your crazy out. The only reason we call it crazy is because we've been taught by the herd that it's crazy. But the truth is that crazy is your unique self. So let it out more often. So somebody give me a hashtag let your crazy out if you dig on that. So observing, learning, degrees and certifications. This is a big one, right? This falls under fake work. And we're all looking to get certified and validated in life, so we can get unconsciously caught up in this. Observing, learning, and all these degrees and certifications that we go out and spend time to get are distractions, included with listening to this podcast right now. That's why I always invite people to let it go and go to work. They're all distractions in the absence of action. And we know that, but while we're in the learning phase, there's a perception that we think, this was a valuable lesson in my life, that we think that just by learning something, we will advance in life. No, you will just go through life knowing things if you do it in the absence of distraction, of action. So I learned that I put that together by reading Nir Eyal's book, Indistractable. So the best way to learn is from experience in action. And like I said before, fail more. So you're unique and special in your own way. Here's another one. There's no reason to accept a lesser version of yourself in an unhealthy judging comparison with others. Not an easy one to deal with, but comparative realities kill us all, right? And they make cowards out of all of us. So there's nobody like you. You're one of a kind. Mediocrity is a choice. And if you continue to lick the lollipop of mediocrity, as I say, you will suck forever. Mediocrity is a choice. Okay, and comparative reality is something that you do not have to do. So I free you from that. All of these things that I've mentioned. So we're getting closer now to the one. What does Dragon think the one thing? So if I was about to pass, what would I pass on? So all of these things that I've mentioned above require one thing that either brings them to life, that brings all of these things to life. So here's another thing. All these concepts that we read about and that I just shared, the only way you can actually bring them to life beyond the idea of just like thinking that they're cool and vibing with them and saying that makes sense. What brings them to life or buries them, right? Or buries them forever is willingness. So that's the one. That's the one thing that I thought about is willingness. So the one thing that I want to share most with you is the concept and the practice of willingness. We must be open, not closed to all things and possibilities. Even reality, as you see it, must be open for discussion. Let me read that again. Even reality, as you see it, when you look around, everything that you think is, you need to be open and willing to open it up for discussion, right? That's a big one. I got that from Donald Hoffman, Case Against Reality. It's the birthplace for all that you desire in growth and expansion. Willingness. Willingness creates the space for the magic. So the question is this: to what degree are you willing to receive all that comes your way today? Now, Eckhart Tolle, a beautiful mind. And here he gave me something, and I'll offer this to you. I don't know how many people write these things down, but there's just so many nuggets in these. And by the way, I didn't make any of this up. This comes from stuff that I learned. So Eckhart Tolle says this, and I recommend that you write it. He says, first accept, then react. Think about that for a second. The first thing that we do with anything is accept it. Don't shut it out. Accept it. Be open to it, be willing, right, to accept it, then react. So my whole interface response system is all about teaching people a more efficient way of reacting, right? But first we have to accept it and create a little bit of space. So this is crucial, as our unwillingness to accept the things that are going on, here's what I'm trying to say. The unwillingness of to accept the things that are going to happen no matter what, the things that are going on, like, let's look at it, adversity and the experience of negative feelings. If we learn to accept the things that are non-negotiable, meaning they're gonna happen anyway. Remember what I said before about those negative feelings, trying to control uncontrollable. If we can learn, and this is part of the interface response system, if we can learn to accept the things that are non-negotiable and not buy into them as fact, which is why we have to, everything's got to be open to discussion, including all this shit that I'm saying right now. Accept them and not buy into them as fact or as descriptions of who we are, right? Even if you woke up today and you had a positive mental attitude, and it's got to be open for discussion, everything. We reclaim control of the controllables and our destiny when we start to do this, when we start to gain access to what it is that we are in control of. And one of the things that I've learned to be in control of is to question everything. It's okay to believe in something, but you have to always remain open to the fact that there might be something else. So, however, we must first become willing. This is why I chose it as the one. We must first become willing to do so. If you're reading a book or listening to a podcast like this, and you're in search of something, you're a seeker of happier, healthier, wealthier, right? You're looking for answers. If you find the answer, I'm inviting you to be willing to the fact that you might have found the answer that feels right now. But I'm just saying, be willing to question everything. Because all we see in the history and evolution of man and woman is that there's always a different way, right? So how do we become willing? It's just a choice and a decision. If so, why are some willing to accept and be vulnerable and others not? So I have to address this. I believe that it's all in the level of conscious awareness of this game or simulation that's taking place. And what I mean by that is, once again, I think it all has to do with to what degree you can consciously be aware that this is all potentially just a game, right? That's ever changing, that's taking place. So if I'm willing to accept things, that means that I must in some way trust that being willing is safe and a good idea. So if I'm to become open and willing, something inside of me needs to say that that's a good idea. Why would I do anything that's not a good idea? So if I have a bad reference, and this is the work that I've been doing, if I had a bad reference point from the past where I opened up and became willing, so here's the idea: is becoming open and willing a good idea? because that's what I'm offering. But if you think it's a bad idea, you won't do it. So if I had something happen in the past where I opened up and became willing, but then got burnt, well, naturally, and this is stored in your amygdala, your knee-jerk reaction to the idea of being willing or vulnerable would be that it's a bad idea. So those stored memories, and they get stored in the hippocampus, those stored memories in my hippocampus will work to validate the initial fear as a real thing and trigger fight, flight, or freeze. So if you have past experience of making yourself vulnerable, if you are here in this reality, I'm just trying to make you aware of this. If you make yourself vulnerable now, and you're having a negative experience fire off in your brain, well, your brain will easily sell you, your prefrontal cortex, on the idea that it's a bad idea, and that's where fight, flight, or freeze come. So we must be willing to take the time. This is the answer, right? First of all, become aware of that. To become willing, we must first be willing to take the time to slow this process down of a negative fire off. Between that and the full buy-in, we have to slow that time down, slow that process down long enough that our more rational thoughts and access that more rational space in our brain and allow that space to join the conversation. This is how you have to become willing. The discussion and conversation, and determine that your past experiences, this is one of my biggest takeaways, determine that your past experiences no longer apply to this new place that we're heading. If you can make that distinction, your whole life will change. That it's not about letting go of the past. It's about recognizing the past exists, right? But the question is does the past, your past experience, and all of these things that have programmed your brain, are they something that applies in the future? Where you're going in the future, does your past experience apply anymore? So that was a big one. So that's how you become willing. You have to be open and willing by embracing and understanding that. So remember this, and this is my close. This is a great quote that I read that I thought was a great way to tie this up. So the capacity to learn is a gift, right? If you have the capacity to learn, it's a gift. The ability to learn is a skill. You can work on that. My great friend Jim Quick teaches people how to learn. And if you learn more, you can also develop the capacity. So you can become gifted if you work on the skill of learning. So the capacity to learn is a gift. The ability to learn is a skill, but the willingness to learn is a choice. And that's by Brian Herbert. And you know what I love about that? My gift to you is simple and profound at the same time. It's a reminder that you get to choose how the rest of your story unfolds simply by being willing and open. So my last question in my Rise Up was, are you willing? So that was my big takeaways from the past 50 years of life. And all I can say to close this out is, when you reach 50 years old, the perception of it is greatly tainted by what you've been taught getting old is all about. One of the things, and this is part of my interface response system, is being aware of what actually is and what isn't. And I have been taught since birth what getting old means. Is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? Do things get better? Do things get worse? And I catch myself, because a lot of times people say I feel old, and we also, when you get to 50, you naturally, and remember, feelings are feelings. It's okay to feel things, but that doesn't mean that they're real. You naturally start to feel like you're running out of time, right? As if 49 was any different, as if 30 was any different, as if 15 was any different because of the impermanence. So what I'm doing right now, this is another, I'm open and I'm willing to just embrace everything. First of all, I have a lot of gratitude that I've been gifted with 50 years, and it's been wonderful. And it's given me a lot of time to find my way here. And one of the things I like to do is help others not suffer so much, although suffering is important. But I'm not buying into anything. I'm not buying into anything. I'm not buying into pain and suffering as a bad thing. I'm not buying into getting old as a bad thing. I'm just going to come greet you every day with the same thing and just say, great morning world. So I feel super blessed to be with you guys for doing Rise Ups for God, probably 6-7 years, thousands of them. And I just wish you all the best. And I hope that this resonated with someone. And remember, if you learned something today, give it away, and that's how it's going to stay. So that's my Rise Up, and that was my 50 years of takeaways, and the one thing is willingness. Love and appreciate you all. Hope that you'll follow us on the podcast, Rise Up with Dragon. We're going to do a little interaction with some of our friends in Clubhouse. Clubhouse I'm at Makes Sense, and you can go to riseupwithdragon.com and sign up for our newsletter and a free, when it releases, 15 Days to Discipline course. Love and appreciate you all.